What's up, guys? Ask Coach Ben podcast here, New Year's edition. I'm here with Jim from Jiu-Jitsu Magazine. We actually have a couple sponsors today, Jim. First one, Muscle Farm. You guys know Muscle Farm supplements. Buy them. Coupon code Ben. If you buy them, $10 off. And then Lactigo. Lactigo is an awesome company that has sent me a lot of these, and I believe in it. I've looked at the research, and it works. We'll talk more about it soon.
Awesome. So, Happy New Year to everyone. Going into the new decade, there's going to be the whole new me, new year, new you kind of mentality, spirit going around. So before people dive into some sort of exercise program or maybe even take up jiu-jitsu or change their entire lifestyle, what are some of the proper ways to approach this topic without injuring yourself or suffering from burnout through frustration of lack of results? What can we do, man?
All right, so this is a question I get a lot. Considerations and things that you should take into account before you start strength training or a strength conditioning program, a workout, whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to assume that the person asking this question has never really lifted weights seriously. And this can apply to anybody. It doesn't have to be for jiu-jitsu. It can be just people that don't do jiu-jitsu. But we're on the Jiu-Jitsu Magazine podcast network, so we're going to primarily talk about jiu-jitsu athletes, right? So first, we have a story. Jim, you actually rushed into a strength training program recently, maybe like a month ago, and got hurt.
Yeah.
I was actually training you.
Yeah, it was under proper supervision and everything. And this is actually a segment that I wanted to, or at least a segment of society I wanted to address. And it's the people that have experience in working out, that are, athletes at some point in their life, and to really acknowledge that you're not in the type of shape you were in before. So the mentality of going into it easy is that much more important when you have a contrast.
So I think it's important that we let the listeners know that you do work out. You were in the military. You just took some time off. So you took a pretty extended amount of time off. And I think what happened was, we were doing deadlifts and everything was good. And then the same day you decided to roll. You decided to train with Jason Manley, who's a very high level black belt. So you don't want to get into that. And I know you, Jim. You do like to roll hard when you can. So one of the things that you need to take into account right away is just if you're coming from a long layoff, you should start from ground zero. Right, so I'm going to try to systematize this. Right, I'm not a big checklist guy, but we got to start from the beginning. Right, so if you take a long time off, it's no different than if you were to just you've never really lifted weights before. You should take the same precautions. Right, so and the disclaimer here is, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. Go get a physical. Go make sure that your blood work is good. Go make sure that you're healthy. Make sure your dick works. Whatever, all that stuff. Get it done. Okay, then define your goal. Okay, so if you're a guy who does jiu-jitsu recreationally, which is probably most of our listeners, versus a competitor, you can have different goals, right? Versus somebody who's never trained jiu-jitsu and you just want to get stronger for looking good, right? These are all different goals. So define your goal. The more you can define the goal, the better it is for reaching them. So let's say your goal is to get stronger, get more mobile. You want to prevent injuries. These are all things that jiu-jitsu practitioners tend to want, right? And if you're an experienced jiu-jitsu practitioner versus if you're very new to jiu-jitsu and you're still getting sore from training, this is going to dictate how your workout is going to be different compared to somebody who, let's say, is very experienced. So once you have your goal, let's just say for you, Jim, you're going to start a new workout program this year. What is your goal? What is your goal?
To slim down,
okay.
Just take that load off of my joints.
Injury prevention?
Yeah, so the end result, injury prevention.
Better shape, better conditioning.
Functional conditioning.
Okay. Better shape, lose weight, injury prevention. Okay, yes. So we've defined that. And you're also a black belt, so you have experience, right? So you're not, when you train jiu-jitsu, you're not like let's say, using a whole lot of energy compared to like a white belt.
It's not IBW finals
yes,
every time I roll.
right. Versus, see, Jim is a black belt and he's been training for very long time, over 10 years. His training in jiu-jitsu in the training room is going to be very different from, like, say, a white belt who just started 6 months ago. Okay, those guys are still like going hard. They're still going to be sore. They're sweating. They're everything. They're training very, very hard. And generally, as you get more experienced, unless you're a competitor or you just like to go hard, jiu-jitsu is almost like becomes the supplement, as opposed to strength training becomes a supplement when you first start, or if you're a competitor and it's the primary thing that you're doing, right? So you got to kind of just gauge that. All right, jiu-jitsu is strength training. It's isometric upper body strength training. Okay, so if you don't understand that, you're gonna probably get overused injuries. You're gonna be fatigued, right? A lot of people come to me with experience in, like, say, for example, powerlifting, right? And they're like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna power lift 5 days a week and I'm gonna train jiu-jitsu 4 days a week. That's like right off the bat. And I always tell them that, it's not gonna work, right? You're not gonna be able to go into a new sport like jiu-jitsu and still keep your 5 day a week powerlifting schedule. It's not gonna fly. Okay, so anyway, we took a long turn there, but the first thing I would do after defining your goal is do you have the means to do this? Is to hire a trainer. Okay, hire a professional, even online. Online if necessary, right? Ideally, it would be in person, but online, right? If you have to, right? I have friends at Atos Electrum Performance. Look them up. They do great online programs. They have an app. I would say that's better than pretty much anything. Just going out there and shooting in the dark. You get their app. But if you can find somebody in person, if you can work with them in person, if you can work with me in person, great. That would be the first step. Hire a professional. Like when you started, Jim, you brought me in. I kind of programmed your workout and systematized everything. And then now we're in a little bit of an abstract topic here. Is how do you find a trainer, right? If you're gonna find a trainer, how do you find one, right? There's just
how do you define the role of a trainer? Because everyone's personality is different, and it's a top mixed salad out there.
Yeah.
What's out there?
First thing is, can you afford a trainer? If the answer is no, then skip the next 5 minutes. But let's say you can find a trainer who is knows what they're doing and they can train you. How do you find this person? What do you look for? Okay, this is my I'm biased because I am a trainer and I hold myself to these standards, but and this is just my opinion, right? But some of the things that I look for, let's say if I was to put my students with a trainer, right? What do I look for? Open-minded. Okay, you have to be an open-minded person if you're going to be a good trainer. Somebody that's very dogmatic, closed-minded. Oh, we only do squats on one leg because doing squats on 2 legs will destroy you. This is not stuff that I like hearing from trainers, because it's not an open-minded thing, and down the road that will lead to problems. So having an open mind, always learning, being a professional, having a certification. What should you look for in a certification? Depends. The gold standard when I was in the industry back in the day was the CSCS, was the Certified Strength Conditioning Specialist from the NSCA. That was the gold standard, and a degree, right? Degree in exercise science, a degree in kinesiology. But nowadays, with the internet and all information, we basically have like the Library of Alexandria at our fingertips.
For better or for worse.
So
right?
you can't hold everybody to like these concrete standards. I know a lot of brilliant trainers that don't have any credentials, but I would trust them over somebody who has a lot of credential, because I work with them personally, or I know who they are. I know they're always a student. They do this thing full time. These are all things you should look for. But yeah, if you can find somebody with a CSCS, generally that's going to be good. Somebody that's going to have the knowledge of strength training that is beyond most, say, commercial gym personal trainers, right? So, what else to look for in a trainer? Do they have to be fit? Okay, this is like a common one, right? Does the trainer have to be fit? I go back and forth with this, because I think there's a standard you have to have when you are when you have chosen a certain discipline, right? If you're a trainer and you're incredibly out of shape, okay, its credibility is shot there. I don't trust you because why can't you hold yourself to these standards, right? Would you trust a fat nutritionist? Would you trust a person that is broke to teach you how to make money and build a savings? These are credibility is important, right? So if there's incongruence in the trainer and their own personal health, that's a little bit of a flag. It's a little bit of a red flag.
Right. It's not the be all end all indicator, but it's a flag for sure.
Yeah. You have to, obviously there are circumstances in which, let's say the trainer is older, right? They're 60 years old. You can't hold them the same standard as a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old, right? Maybe they have family, they have, there's a lot of
injuries.
Exactly.
There's so many variables.
So fit or not fit is not like you said, it's not a be all end all, but I have certain standards there that I would like to see if I was going to hire a trainer. And also here's the flip side to that. People that have very excellent physiques, right? They look real good. A lot of the times, those people look that way in spite of what they do. Also, they prioritize themselves in order to look that way, right? So, I'm relatively fit, right? I don't look like, I'm not going to be in muscle and fitness tomorrow, right? But I'm okay, and I think most of the trainers that I've seen that have, high level intellect and, they know what they're doing, they're not like incredibly built. That's just the truth. If you start looking for like the Men's Health Cover model as your trainer, that person might be prioritizing their own training ahead of their clients. And so there's a flip side to this, right? You don't want the guy that's like so obsessed with their own physique that they're, eating protein, meals in your face while you're training, and they're only concerned of, how they look, and they want you to do everything that they do, right? That kind of can happen with a trainer that's just too fit, right? But again, there are people that are incredibly fit too, who are great trainers. I just haven't seen, I haven't seen that many in proportion. That's just how it is.
Proportion.
Yes.
Very good key statement there.
Yeah.
Proportion.
Yeah. You have to find a trainer that works with you, right? Not somebody that tells you what they do, right? This is the same with jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Your instructor shouldn't only teach you the things that they're good at. They should, there's a certain bit of debate there, but they should teach you everything, right? Even things that maybe they're not the best at, but they're teaching you to look out for it. Like I'll give you an example. I'm not the best spider guard player, right? But I have to show spider guard once in a while in my fundamental class, just so that my white belts know what spider guard is. I don't play it, very often, but it's not my A game, but I know what it is. I can explain, I can break it down. So the same with a strength conditioning coach or a trainer, right? You don't want somebody that only does what they do. Okay, they only do deadlifts this certain way, so you have to do it this certain way. You want them to work with you because everybody's different. Okay, you want to find a trainer that's evidence-based, that's always evolving, that's always doing continuing education, that goes to conferences. They're trying to always grow and learn. We're in a gym right now. There's trainers everywhere that are just stagnant. They haven't changed their philosophy in training for 10 years. If you haven't changed your training philosophy year by year, you're behind, right? It's like jiu-jitsu. The stuff that I did in sparring, a year ago, it wouldn't be as effective today because the game has evolved. It's no different than jiu-jitsu world, the evidence-based world. It's all the same. There's a constant flow of new information. So when you're looking for somebody to work with, this person should have a passion for growth, for learning. They should always be a student. If you find that person that's, an ultra guru that says, I know it all. I don't have to learn anything. You just have to listen to me and I will be the solution to all your problems. It's probably a charlatan. That's probably not the guy you want. You want the guy that's not always sure. I'm not always sure everything is right, but this is my best conclusion based on the available evidence, right? That's what you want. So yeah, that's pretty much, if you're going to hire a trainer, that's what I would look for. I hold trainers up to pretty high standards because I am a trainer. But yeah, that's it. Anything to add to that, Jim?
I think no. I think those are great points. I think at the end of the day, the moral of the story is take your time, be methodical, and as you said, systematic in your approach, and try to. In the military, we called it ORM, operational risk management. Try to minimize the risks of what being highly physical can bring to your life, which is injury, your disruption of time in your current lifestyle. Consider those risks and manage them accordingly is the bottom line of your message.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All right.
You want to hire the person that is the best fit for you, but also is the person that, can grow with you. You don't want the guy that, never does continuing education, that, they've been doing the same shit for the last 10 years and telling you it's magic. You don't want that trainer. All right. So let's say you cannot afford a trainer. I would go with the online option. It's a lot cheaper than in-person trainer. But I'll just go over a couple things that you can do on your own that will help you be a little more prepared when you can hire a trainer, or if you just are okay with doing a lot of research, right? Because training conditioning is not easy to do correctly. It's an art and a science. So science part is generally the hard part for people. The art part is the easier part, but you need to have a science background to put it together. Okay. So first thing I would do before starting strength conditioning or coming back from a long layoff is something that I rarely see anybody do. Like, nobody does this, but I think it should be the first thing, is to build up your aerobic base. Okay, so build up your aerobic capacity and your just like road work, for example, right? Like, boxers do road work. MMA people do road work. They're running, or they're doing some kind of conditioning at a low intensity for 30 to 90 minutes with the relatively low heart rate, 130 to 150 to 60. And I'll repeat that again. So 30 to 90 minutes with your heart rate at about 130 to 150 and 60. And I would do that probably 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week minimum, just to build up your aerobic base. Okay, so your aerobic base is kind of like your baseline function of your heart. Right? So this will help you when you do start strength training, because it will decrease your fatigue in between sets. It'll decrease also in your jiu-jitsu training in between rounds. Like when you're recovering from, let's say, a 5-minute round or 8-minute round, the recovery minute, that's where your aerobic base is challenged. Right? So a lot of people who say, I can only do 5-minute rolling, and then all of a sudden I'm done for like 10 minutes and I have to wait 10 minutes. Your aerobic base probably sucks. Okay? And I'm notorious for having a poor aerobic base too, because it's tedious work. Right? I want to get there and do deadlifts and kettlebell swings and overhead press, dips and things. I don't want to sit on a bike for 90 minutes at a low heart rate. And, basically you want to be able to talk when you're doing this type of road work. So if I'm jogging, I should be able to have a conversation and still breathe a little heavy, but not like be out of breath completely. Right? My favorite for building aerobic base is the air bike. An air bike with a nice comfortable seat. It'll be good. Treadmill works. You can run outside. So that's the first thing I would do that people don't do. Build up that aerobic base. It also prevents some fatigue in the weight room, and that's how really people get injured a lot of times. Is they're fatigued in the weight room. They haven't properly recovered from either the previous workout or the previous set, and they're launching into the next set, next workout, and they haven't recovered. Well, you haven't recovered because many factors, but one of them could be your aerobic base is poor, and you can't get enough blood to the working muscles, and therefore, things start breaking down after that. All right, so we got to start that, by the way, for you. We got to get you on
Get that aerobic base
up.
up.
Got to get your aerobic base up. Yeah, I think your aerobic base is pretty good because you've in the past done a lot of road work. I feel like you in the military did a lot. There are people out there who just have zero aerobic base. You know these people. The first round is their hardest round, and they never recover.
They never
They
recover.
never recover.
Yeah, and usually the first round is the hardest round, but then the second and third round should be the easier rounds because your cardio, your
Yeah,
body
that's
just
how I
got jump
think
started.
most high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners train. Is they'll go like an easy round one, and then they'll ramp it up round two, ramp it
Yeah,
up
they
round
get
three.
better.
They get better. Yeah.
Yeah, which subtopic for a different episode is the importance of the warm up.
Yeah.
Warm ups are so important.
Yeah. Most people warm it up too light. You need to be a
Yeah.
little more intense.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
All right. After building up your aerobic base, there's not much left. Just start with basic compound movements. Right? You've got your trainer. This should be what they start you with. Basic compound movements and perfect them.
Go over a compound movement. What's a compound movement?
An example would be like a squat. Right? A squat is a knee dominant lower body compound movement. So a squat can be a barbell squat, it can be a goblet squat, it can be a squat with a landmine, it can be a body weight squat, it can be a TRX squat. But it's a basic movement, right? So why do I say start with basic compound movements? These are generally movements that are closed chain and they're not on machines, not done on machines.
And if anyone has any questions about what any of those exercises were that Coach Ben just rattled off, just do a YouTube search for any of those exercises, and then you'll get an idea of what it looks like.
Check my Instagram,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of them on there.
Posting them every day.
Yeah,
virtually.
every day. A deadlift is an example of a compound movement, right? A squat is a knee dominant hip hinge. A knee dominant lower body exercise. A deadlift would be a hip dominant or a hip hinge movement. So it's similar to a squat, but somewhat different. How I could relate this in jiu-jitsu would be a deadlift is kind of like when you're let's say when you're doing when you're standing in somebody's guard, right? And they are kind of like holding you down, like holding your sleeves or something, and you're trying to maintain posture. That would be like a deadlift. That's like a hip hinge. Some people can squat that too, but generally it's a hip hinge movement to resist that downward pull, right? A squat would be more like the best example I can think of off the top of my head is when you are in somebody's closed guard, and you know that guard break where you sit down and the knee comes up. That's kind of like a squat, and you put the two knees in their lower back. And it breaks open their guard. That's like a squat.
Wedge, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of different applications to these, but like a squat, deadlift, a push and a pull. So a push and a pull is basically a compound upper body movement, right?
Okay.
Push, pull, push, pull, right?
Okay.
Vertical and horizontal.
As opposed to now compound, you have isolated movements.
Yeah, like a curl, like a biceps curl would be like a isolated movement. Yeah, I wouldn't do too many of those when you're getting back into training or when you're just starting strength conditioning, because those are the lower return on investment exercises. You're doing curls. Curls are great, but if you haven't developed a good horizontal pull, right, you're kind of shortchanging yourself by spending too much time on curls if you haven't developed your horizontal pull, like a row or something, right? Other compound movements I consider in this list would be, and this is debatable, everybody has a different list, right? But carrying, like farmer carries, is very important. Be able to carry like 2 dumbbells, hex bar, something like that, and walk. One of my favorite carries is called a Zercher carry. You have sandbags in your arms, okay, and you're just walking with them. Okay, that's one of my favorite carries. I think it's very applicable for wrestling. Grip strength, I think, is in there. It's not a compound movement, but I think these next two are not compound movements. They're more basic items that you should address if your goal is jiu-jitsu. Grip strength, right? Your grip strength endurance. So, just getting a gripper and doing like 4 sets of 20 twice a day would be a good start. Core strength, you should always be training your core strength for jiu-jitsu. I think having a hollow body exercise, thrown in there like a dead bug or a reverse crunch, things like that are very, very important for jiu-jitsu. Right? I think literally I can tell right away if you have a good guard based on your core strength, your ability to do a hollow body. You look at the Meows, and these guys are That's how they're able to invert and be so mobile. It's because they're stabilizing the center of their body, right? That gives them mobility. Okay. All right. And so, yeah, start with basic compound movements. If you don't know how to do them, hire a trainer. Got to hire a trainer. This is tough.
To that, Ben, do you have any book recommendations? Pre-internet, man, books where I would consume those, and that they would go over a lot of the techniques on how to. I mean, the trainer. There's nothing that replaces a good trainer, because if you teach yourself, you could be teaching yourself bad habits, bad movement patterns. But that aside, are there some good books out there that just give you a good standard foundation of exercises and how to do them?
So, it's tough for me to answer that because I generally have all my information in not from one source. It's a lot of experience, and a lot of my information was done through my certification, my college coursework. These are, but most of all, it's experience. It's, if I were to recommend a book, I mean, there's just not many books that I would say teach the basics of compound movements. Like, there's no, I mean, there probably are. I just maybe consider them a little too basic, and I never went over them myself. But one that people always talk about is this book called Starting Strength. I have my critiques on that book, but it's not a bad place to start. Starting Strength by Mark Ripito, good one. There's just again, the spend a little more money, hire a trainer. Go online, Electrum Performance. I'm available. My rate's a little bit high, but these are just, I think it's worth it to spend the money and get real professional help and advice versus trying to figure it out yourself. Because the one thing in the books is you can't really, I mean, it's like pictures, right? Have you ever tried learning jujitsu with the pictures?
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Really
The
hard.
videos, okay, now we got something. Now I'm looking at things moving. Books, tough.
Yeah.
Videos,
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
In this day and age. So
yeah.
that was
Fight
kind of a
Camp-
dated question.
Yeah, Fight Camp Conditioning has some good info products. They're affordable. Just Fight Camp Conditioning, I think, has some good ones. My friend Brett has some good ones on there. Corey Beasley has some good ones on there. So yeah, that's that. Just again, the underlying message here is start with basic compound movements and perfect them. If your deadlift sucks, if your kettlebell swing sucks, do not do chains and bands and burpees with things with the TRX. Fix the basic movement pattern. I want to see your squat, and I want it to be good before we go to one-legged squats, before we go to sled pulls and all these things, right? And you could do you could do a basic compound movement program for years and still get results before you need to switch to kind of like more complicated
Exotic stuff.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, well, two more things, but last thing is scheduling, right? How are you going to add strength training if you haven't made time for it this last year? How are you going to do it this year? Good question. That's up to you. Okay, you're going to need to find time, but some guidelines. I would say you should wait at least 3 hours between training jiu-jitsu and strength training. I just think that you need to give your body time to recover, kind of get back to its state, homeostasis, and then do strength training. Okay. People generally say before is better. That's from anecdotes that I've heard from competitors. Strength training before, jiu-jitsu after. Something with maybe you've recruited those motor units with the strength training exercises. In jiu-jitsu, you may perform a little better. Okay. I've also heard the flip side of that, and it's up to you. Just give it some time. What I don't recommend is doing jiu-jitsu, heading right over to the gym and trying to lift. You're going to be compromised in one or the other. Remember that jiu-jitsu is upper body isometric strength training. So I think, at least from my opinion, most jiu-jitsu athletes need to train more so in the things that they don't train in sparring. So like legs, right? Unless you're doing a lot of stand up, you really feel your legs doing that much work. Not always, right? It's not. A lot of times, it's jiu-jitsu is like an upper body dominant. You know, unless you have a tricky guard game or something like. I don't. You know, I generally sweep, come up on top, and I'm on top.
Yeah, I say core primary and
Core,
then
yes.
your upper body.
Yeah. So like, work on your leg strength. You know,
Sure.
especially your ability to maintain base. So like a goblet squat is great. You know, goblet, even the back squat's great. You know, these are things that you should work on. Okay. Other things with scheduling. I think that's pretty much it with the scheduling. You got to find time.
And if I could just add like a little mental trick that tends to work. It's worked for me over the years. Is make it a priority. How many people do you ever hear say, "I don't have enough time to brush my teeth.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to take a shower." You know, it's like no matter how busy someone is, you will never hear someone say that. So put the priority and emphasis on staying fit and working out in the same category that
Yeah.
you would brushing your teeth.
Yep.
Make it a point and just think of it that way. You will miraculously find time somehow.
Yeah, I think also just the underlying thing there is consistency.
Consistency.
If you're not consistent, it ain't gonna work out. You know, you gotta be consistent. If you want to work out 3 days a week, make sure you hit 3 days a week. Don't do 5 days a week the next week and 1 day a week this week. You know, that's gonna create problems.
Yeah.
So scheduling, be consistent. That's it. And then the last thing is, I get this question a lot is, and this is one of the issues that I had when I was working at LA Fitness. I was a district VP, and occasionally I would do sales, and I would kind of just sign people up just to kind of get a gauge on how things are. And when I signed somebody up at LA Fitness, this was 10 years ago, the number one thing I would try to do is I would try to get them to work with a trainer immediately, right? What's the problem? It costs money. People didn't want to spend that money. They came in, they wanted to spend $49.99 a month and be done with it. They didn't want to add another $200, you know, to this. And so their excuse was always, I don't want to work with a trainer just yet. I want to do group classes first, and then I'll work with a trainer. That to me has always been advice that I would give the other way around. I would work with a trainer, and then when you know what you're doing, jump into that group class. Because in the group class, you have no personalized attention. You know, I have a gym, a boot camp, 1A Fitness, and the only reason I send some of my students there is because I know it's a small class. It's like 3 people, 4 people.
They're like
So-
semi-privates.
Yeah, they're semi-privates. That's the least acceptable that I'm gonna. That's the bare minimum, okay? Because in those classes, at least the coaches that are there can see your form and say, okay, adjust this. They can at least make micro changes. In a true group class, like whatever, go to LA Fitness, do a group class there. There's no coaching. There's no change your form. You pick up dumbbells, probably too light for you anyway. You're doing the form wrong. You're grading bad technique, and the workout's not for you. So forget about your goals. Your goals aren't even in there. You're just going to do whatever the instructor feels like today, right? That's why jiu-jitsu privates, generally you will be better at jiu-jitsu if you do more privates than you do group classes.
For sure.
Right? So
For sure.
Same thing, right? Should you do group classes? No, I would avoid group classes until you are at the level that you can kind of assess what's good for you and what isn't, right? Like, I'll give you an example. I'm at the level where I kind of know, what I can and can't do, right? So I go to a group yoga class once in a while. I go to a group like conditioning class once in a while. I do CrossFit once in a while, just to kind of
Mix it up.
get my conditioning in. But I have a lot of experience. When I'm at CrossFit and the coach says to do something crazy like a snatch, and I haven't snatched in 5 years, I'm like, I'm not going to do a snatch today. I'm going to go ahead and do the kettlebell swing if that's okay. And I do kettlebell swings. But if you're new and you don't understand this about yourself, you're going to try to do that snatch, and you're not ready for that snatch,
That's
and
a
you're going to get
great
hurt.
point. Great point.
Don't go to group classes until you have the experience to know what your body can and can't do. Otherwise, injury, you could, it's not your goal. It could be a waste of time.
Roger that.
Yep.
So the takeaways here: hire a trainer, get a trainer if you can, budget permitting, compound movements, start slow,
Build your aerobic base.
Oh,
build your aerobic base. Don't go in there crazy out of shape. I've trained people who I knew they didn't build their aerobic base. I would give them 2 weeks to build their aerobic base, and then we're going to start training. I usually do this. They come in after the warm up, they're gassed, sweating, gassed.
About
I'm like,
to
you
puke.
didn't do your aerobic base training, did you? No, you didn't. Great. Now I have to give you that training again, and you have to supplement that while we're doing strength training. So build that up. Okay, some of you guys that are listening, you're already in shape, you already have it built. It's different. Okay.
All right, very good. And I'm going to give a little secret. Probably the most inexpensive way to get top-notch advice. Hit Coach Ben up on Instagram at Coach BZ. That's B Bravo Z Zulu. So at Coach BZ on Instagram. Hit him up. Get some free advice.
Yeah, and I'm available. I'm not that accessible, but if you send me a message, I am a coach at Muscle Farm. You can hire me if you like, but it's like I said, I may not be the most affordable guy at the moment, and that's not that. I'm not bragging. That's just the truth.
I'll play the odds. Hit him up on Instagram.
Very fortunate.
All right.
All right. Cool. Thanks again to Muscle Farm, like Tigo, Jiu-Jitsu Magazine, Jim. Anything else?
Without you, this would not be possible, Coach Ben.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.